Born of Earth, forged in an age of analog tapes and atomic hopes, it was never meant to return. Yet it continues, steadily, faithfully, moving deeper into the void. Out here, beyond the heliopause, the sun is only a pale star in the rearview. Voyager 1 is no longer just a spacecraft. It is a witness. A ghost ship of humanity, carrying our voice, our dreams, our golden message in a bottle. It is still speaking. Still whispering across the stars. But now, it seems something may have whispered back. In early 2022, a ripple passed through the deep space network. A distortion. A break in the usual rhythm. Engineers at NASA stared at their screens. Something was wrong. Voyager 1's data was returning, strange. It wasn't corrupted. It wasn't noise. It was structured, repetitive, recursive. Ones and zeros, over and over. An endless loop with no clear origin. More unnerving, it was being transmitted from a dormant subsystem. A part of Voyager that hadn't been active in decades. Why was it awake now? Why was it speaking in patterns? At first, they thought it was a glitch. But artificial intelligence flagged something deeper. The loop wasn't random, it was organized. It echoed the cadence of communication protocols. Not human, but familiar. As if a language was trying to be born. And then came the pulse. A rhythmic tone, subtle but deliberate, buried deep in the signal. When compared to Voyager's old data, one engineer noticed something chilling. The pulse matched a frequency embedded in the golden record. Not a copy, not an echo. A response. The same frequency. The same harmonic key. The same message, but reversed. It was as if something had found Voyager. Listened to our message. And chose to answer. But the reply didn't arrive when it should have. It came too early. By hours, even days. The signal had arrived before Voyager transmitted it. As though time had bent. As though causality had folded in on itself. Some began whispering ideas once considered science fiction. That Voyager had passed through a fold in space. A fracture where time, gravity, and information behaved differently. Quantum physicists reanalyzed the telemetry. The patterns weren't random, they were fractal. Self-similar. Recursive. Like they were written by a mind that thought in mathematics. Like the signal wasn't just from somewhere else, but from someone else. Voyager's ancient instruments showed anomalies near the heliopause. Magnetic fields twisted into Mobius loops. Particle densities spiked and collapsed. And deep in that data, one frame caught the attention of every scientist in the room. It was a waveform. Not natural. Not noise. It had symmetry. And it matched, almost perfectly, a handshake signal used by early Earth communication satellites. But inverted. Transposed. Like a mirror held up to our history. Something had taken our language, and turned it inside out. And now it was speaking back. Not in words. Not in images. But in timing. In pulse. In the language of the universe itself. Voyager 1 was never built for return. But something had found it. And nudged it awake. Just enough to show us, we are not alone in the dark. Then, as quickly as it began, the signal stopped. Telemetry returned to normal. No more pulses, no more patterns. Just the usual silence of the void. But silence is not the same as absence. Sometimes, silence is the loudest answer. Now, Voyager drifts on, alone again. But it is not the same. We are not the same. Because something out there saw us. Heard us. Touched our oldest messenger, and left a fingerprint. A whisper woven in binary and time. And if just enough to show us, we are not alone in the dark. Then, as quickly as it began, the signal stopped. Telemetry returned to normal. No more pulses, no more patterns. Just the usual silence of the void. But silence is not the same as absence. Sometimes, silence is the loudest answer. Now, Voyager drifts on, alone again. But it is not the same. We are not the same. Because something out there saw us. Heard us. Touched our oldest messenger, and left a fingerprint. A whisper woven in binary and time. And if you ask those who still study the signal, they'll tell you this: it wasn't random. It wasn't broken. It was a message. And it said, simply, "We hear you." Now the question remains: do we dare speak back? Far beyond, where even sunlight fades into a whisper, a lone traveler drifts through the silent ocean of stars. Its name is Voyager 1. Built by human hands, in an age when computers filled rooms and the moon was still a dream. It was never meant to return. And yet, it moves onward. Guided by momentum, cradled by silence, wrapped in purpose. It has crossed the boundary of our solar system. Out there, the sun is just a faint ember, a distant memory. And all around, only stars remain, cold, ancient, drifting through the fabric of space like forgotten thoughts. Voyager is no longer just a machine. It has become a witness. The first emissary of humankind, drifting into the unknown on behalf of us all. Inside it, a golden record spins silently, a time capsule of Earth. Sounds of laughter, music, languages, greetings, and hope. A message cast into the void: we were here. We reached this far, and now, it seems the cosmos may have answered. In early 2022, a deep space antenna on Earth picked up something strange. Not static, not noise. But a signal. Not broken, but structured. It had rhythm, it had pattern. It wasn't supposed to be there. The transmission came from an inactive system, dormant for decades. Something, or someone, had turned it back on. Why? And how? Scientists thought it was an error. But it wasn't. The data had mathematical symmetry, recursion, elegance. A language without words. Artificial intelligence analyzed it, and paused. Then it said, "This is not random, there was purpose in the signal." An echo of something beyond understanding. Then came the chilling realization. The frequency inside the signal matched a pattern encoded in Voyager's golden record. But reversed. The very message we sent out in 1977 was returning. But before it should. It arrived before it was supposed to be sent. As if time had bent. As if the future had reached back into the past. Some proposed Voyager had crossed into a place where space and time unravel, where cause and effect no longer obey the rules. Quantum physicists examined the data again. The signal was fractal, endlessly self-replicating, like thought in waveform. There was a pulse, a breath, an intelligence in the structure. And that pulse mirrored old Earth signals. But inverted. Like a reflection. A mirrored echo. It felt as though something had heard us. Not with ears. Not with machines. But with intention. And now, it was answering. Not with words. Not with pictures. But through rhythm, vibration, resonance. In the language of the universe itself. Then, as suddenly as it began, silence returned. The signal stopped. Voyager drifted onward, alone again. But that solitude was not the same. And we were no longer the same. We had felt it. Something out there had noticed us. Something had touched our messenger.